Welcome to my brand new series, a series in which every week I'll be posting a video, and I'm calling it a week in review. So I'm just going to do just a quick review of the films that I've watched in the last week, from starting on Sunday, the International Week, the Sunday to Saturday, giving me time to record it on the Sunday and then edit it, and then finally post it on Monday. So gonna try to keep that schedule as hard as it's pretty hard with my work schedule, but I'll give her a shot. And also, I wanted to just let you know that I am adopting a new rating system. So I used to do increments of like a quarter, so like 1 star, 1 and a quarter, 1.5, that kind of thing. But now I'm just gonna do the letterbox rating of just the half stars. Just easier to keep track of how I rate stuff. It's all logged on Letterbox, so it's easier for me to just actually, if it's 2.5, then it's 2.5, right? So yeah. Obviously, being 5 stars out of 5, being the highest rated of films. That's a rating that I keep very sacred and I very rarely give out, and it's kind of reserved for like my top favorite films of all time. So you won't see 5 too often. And so 4.5, going down from there, 4.5. 4.5 is fantastic films, films that have the potential of one day becoming favorite films. So it's just not in that elite status. But 4.5 stars is fantastic. It's kind of my okay, I gotta hunt down that film, add it to my collection kind of rating. Down from there, 4. 4 is a solid film, 4 stars. And then there's just a few things I would tweak to make it better. But overall, film that I really, really enjoy. And below 4, we got 3.5. 3.5 is just a lesser 4, I guess. I didn't enjoy it as much as I would with a film that I rated 4. It's watchable. I liked it. It's not hitting a home run for me. But I wouldn't pass up an opportunity to watch it. If it came on the TV, I'd probably watch it there. It's just not a film that I'd probably hunt down to add to the collection. If you ever hear me describe a movie as just okay, likely it's getting a rating of 3. So 3, it's overall a mixed positive review for me. Mixed to positive review. It's a film that if it came on the TV, I'd probably pass on it unless somebody else in the room wanted to watch it. But I wouldn't throw a tantrum or anything. I'll watch it again, whatever. But yeah, it's that kind of film. So that'd be a 3-star film, or 3-star rating for me. Underneath that, we got 2.5. 2.5 is the true neutral, man. It's right in the middle. I don't feel anything for the film. It's not negative. It's not positive. It's just bleh, whatever. Obviously, a film that I wouldn't care to watch again, but I wouldn't throw a tantrum if somebody else wanted to watch it. All right, so yeah, 2.5, true neutral, don't feel anything. 2, so now we are going into the negative side. 2 stars is a film overall didn't really enjoy. I didn't enjoy it, but there are things in the film that were featured in the film that I liked. Some scenes maybe, or some ideas, some concepts that I really enjoyed. So that's 2. A 1.5 is again just a lesser 2. It's not as much as I'm having a harder time finding the things that I like in the film, but there are some things that I like, some ideas I just didn't think that were well implemented. That'd be like a 1.5. And then 1 is just a film that overall I didn't enjoy. I didn't like anything in the film. I didn't have fun with it. It's nothing. And the half star is the lowest I'll ever give a film. It gets half a star for being a film, but really it's just because to log a film on Letterboxd, you have to give it a star rating. So half a star is the lowest you can give it to log it, I do believe. So not only did I dislike the film at a half star, something in there made me angry at it. I really didn't enjoy it to a point where I feel frustration over it. That'd be a half star. So yeah, that's my new rating system. So let's get on to the films that I've watched since last Sunday. All right, so last Sunday was Valentine's Day, February the 14th. So of course I had to watch one of the most classic holiday slasher films of all time. That is My Bloody Valentine. Filmed on the east coast of Canada in Sydney Mines, Nova Scotia. This is a film about a small town called Valentine's Bluff. Obviously, Valentine holiday being a very big deal because it shares the name and all that. They have a big dance. They decorate the whole town with little hearts and stuff, and they have this huge dance. So, and it's also a mining community. So there's a mine, and the workers are kind of rushing to get to this party. So the management kind of bail early to go to this party, resulting in a workplace accident down below into the mines. I think the mine shaft, there's an explosion or it just collapsed. But and then there's one sole survivor who becomes insane and becomes the killer. A psychotic killer, right? So 20 years later, they put on a new party for this, and then the killer returns and wreaks havoc in the town once again. If you haven't seen this film, there's a reason why I don't think I've met anybody who dislikes this film. I'm talking about the original film, of course, and the kills are fantastic. Just the special effects are better than you would expect for this low budget, little East Coast Canada film here, but it is just a fantastic film to watch, especially that time of year where it really fits the holidays. So that is a solid 4.5 out of 5 for me. My Bloody Valentine. And then moving on to Monday, I try to watch like a film a day at least. Sometimes it doesn't always work out. Sometimes I miss a day, but yeah, Monday I watched Freaky, starring Vince Vaughn in one of the lead roles. This is a film. This is kind of a play on the Freaky Friday situation, like body swap, and where a high school student switches bodies with a serial killer who had attempted to kill her the night before. Yeah, it's obviously a concept that's been done. This director, I forget his name. The guy who did Happy Death Day. So that was kind of a play on Groundhog Day, set on somebody's birthday, or so Happy Death Day, get it? And then Freaky Friday, so he's doing a play on like Freaky Friday, so he's just calling it Freaky. There's a little pattern there. He's got this little theme going, where he does a horror twists on popular horror films or popular films from like the 80s or whatever, and 90s, like Freaky Friday 2000s. I don't know. Yeah, time is I don't tell time very well. So yeah, Freaky is all right. I gave it a 3.5, so it's one that I would watch again. Sure, it's not fantastic or anything. It's watchable. The comedy is hit or miss for me. Some of the stuff lands, some of it doesn't, as per usual with films like this. But it's the last few years we've been kind of bashed over the head with these art house films, like the films you either get or you don't get. I'm getting a lot of art house fatigue, so it was very refreshing to see a film like Freaky where you can just shut your mind off and it's just kind of entertaining. You, just background stuff. You don't really need to pay attention to understand it. It's just, it just felt really good to watch that at that particular time. So that's why I gave it a 3.5. Some people like it more. Obviously, they like the comedy more. I've seen people who absolutely detest this film, but I enjoyed it for what it was, and that's Freaky. Now moving on to Tuesday. I caught a little film on Netflix called Vampires versus the Bronx. So this is a film about a just a group of kids that live in the Bronx, and they're noticing that a big company is buying out a lot of the businesses in in the Bronx. A lot of their fun hangout spots. They're sad to see a lot of these people get bought out and leave the community. So all the while, their favorite hangout spot, a convenience store in the Bronx, his rent is going up. So they're launching a little campaign to try to save it and raise some money by throwing a party. But a little do they know that the company buying out these businesses is run by a group of vampires, and they're doing this kind of just to kind of take control of the town. They've designated the Bronx as a new feeding ground because nobody cares about the Bronx, and every time someone goes missing, nobody notices. That's their thought process, and that's the kind of the message that they're trying to hammer out through the film, is that these low income communities, if the people go missing, nobody cares. So that's kind of their message, and whether they do a good job of portraying or relaying that message, I'm not sure, but it's pretty enjoyable. Obviously, the kids that eventually they find out what's going on, and then they struggle to convince everybody else in the community that this is what's going on. All the while, there's some side drama going on with one of the kids kind of being involved in some gang activity, that kind of thing. So it's a really interesting blending of those genres, but it's like that black exploitation, vampires, vampires in the ghetto kind of theme. So it was interesting to see. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I don't know if I'd watch it again, but it's enjoyable. It's watchable for sure. So check that out if you haven't seen it. Make up your own mind on it. That's Vampires versus the Bronx. All right, on Wednesday I watched a film called The Dark and the Wicked, and this is a film by Brian Bertino, who brought us The Strangers. Who is most known for The Strangers, and this is a very dark film. It's about two siblings who return back to their country or childhood country home where their parents are still living. The dad falls into a coma, so he's not doing very well. So they're coming home to visit the family, and obviously the mother is very distraught at the fact that the kids are back, and they're like, "You shouldn't be here. What are you doing?" And they're trying to figure out what's going on. Uh, so the mom's acting really strange, and then it it keeps that atmosphere throughout the film of just depressing, like bleak, dark. And it's a supernatural horror. There's some supernatural elements. Obviously, I don't think it's a spoiler if I tell you that the family is plagued by some sort of demon, and yeah. So it's just their struggles with this a demon who's oppressing this family who's brought together, and there are some physical manifestations of the demon. It'll take form other people's forms at times and influence what those people see. It's really weird in that way. It's hard to explain, so you just have to watch it. I think it's coming out on Shudder sometime this year. If you have that service, check that out for sure. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I would have liked it a lot more if they had ramped up the horror a little bit instead of just uh, they really try to hammer down that this is a very bleak situation. But if they would have just put in a little bit more of the supernatural stuff, I would have liked it even more, I think. But still a solid film. It's called The Dark and the Wicked. Moving on to Thursday, I watched a remake, and it's a Indonesian film called The Queen of Black Magic. So yeah, this is the first remake on this list. It's going to be the only one, I think. Yeah. So this is a film that came out in 2019 originally in its home country, and I think it's just getting a wide release this year in 2021. So I guess it'll be my first 2021 film as well, I believe. So yeah, this is a film about, similar to the last film I mentioned. This is a about an orphanage whose owner is fallen not into a coma, but he's very ill, so people are coming back to visit, right? So a group of friends who grew up in this orphanage, they all come back to this orphanage, with their respective families, just to kind of show them off, show them where they grew up, and meet this the owner as well as their friends and stuff. So they do that, and when they arrive there, not everything is well with the place. Again, some supernatural stuff starts to happen. They notice that they can't leave if they drive off too far. It kind of loops around. They come back to the orphanage. Most of the inhabitants of the orphanage are found deceased at one point in the film, and it just all hell breaks loose at one point. So don't want to ruin it, but this one is on Shudder. That's where I watched it, so go check it out on Shudder. If you don't have that service, it's very inexpensive. It's like $5.99 a month, I think, and with a 30-day free trial. So yeah, if you guys haven't seen any Indonesian horror film, they're doing really, really good stuff. This is a new country of origin for horror films that people should really pay attention to. They're doing a lot of good stuff, a lot of cool special effects, and some great storytelling. And like I mentioned, this is a remake. I did catch the original film as well. It was kind of posted at the same time on Shudder, so I was able to watch one after. I was able to watch the original one last week, and I must say that the remake is much better than the original. So, and it's it's a very loose remake in that the story is not at all the same. The only thing in common, I think, is the usage of black magic, maybe a name. Morny, yeah, that name is used, and yeah, so check that out. Very good. The Queen of Black Magic. And I forgot to mention that I also rated this one 4 stars out of 5. Okay, moving on to last Friday. Friday was kind of a vegetable day for me, so I kind of sat around on the couch and I watched a couple of horror films. The first one from 1961, a film called Night Tide. So this is a film about a guy who's in the Navy, and he's posted in a coastal town. I want to say in California somewhere. I'm not entirely sure where it takes place, but this little town has a carnival in it, and he falls in love with one of the workers at this carnival, and they start to date and see each other. All the while, he is meeting some of her colleagues at this carnival, and they all kind of have a grim warning for him, in that they're suggesting that she might not be human, and they're suggesting that she is an actual siren. So she was picked up from on an island at a very young age. She was an orphan, and then brought her on to this to America to work at this carnival where she was raised. So they're suggesting that she is a siren, which is also, she's depicting a mermaid in her act, and they're kind of making a good case about it. So much so that the person who's supposed to be the siren actually believes that she is one as well, and thinks that she's a danger to him. You know, so it's kind of a story about this guy and his struggles on coping, accepting, or moving on from this his new love interest, right? So it's a very interesting film. I gave it a 3.5 out of 4. Not the greatest thing, but it gets the point for being out in the 60s. I think I'm digging the black and white 60s vibe right now, so it'll get extra points for that. It might have been a 3 otherwise, but yeah, I gave it a 3.5 stars. So a Night Tide, also on recently released on Shudder. I'm catching a lot of these Shudder releases lately, I think. So so check that out, Night Tide. And the other film that I caught on Friday is another film from 1961, and this is a Hammer horror film called Taste of Fear, also known as Scream of Fear. And this is about A woman, the protagonist, is wheelchair bound. She just sustained an injury while horseback riding, and she's paralyzed from her waist down. And her mother unfortunately dies, so she's returning home to her father and her stepmother, who she had never met before. So she's en route there, and when she arrives there, she discovers that the dad is gone. He's on a business trip somewhere, or so the stepmother claims. And then all the while, she starts seeing his dead body around the house, leading her to believe that he's dead. But the stepmom continuously, she's telling her that he's just gone, and at one point has somebody pretend to be the dad phone her and talk to her. But yeah, so she's the protagonist, starting to believe that something's happened, something's going on here, and believes that the father has been killed by the stepmother or somebody else, and she's covering up for it. And she finds this unlikely ally in the driver for the family, the employee. So it's just kind of their struggle on proving that the father's dead, and then trying to find out really what happened. And throughout this film, there's there's like 2 or 3 twists that I just did not see coming, and it's very weird for me to see that in a film this old. So it was just a joy, very enjoyable for me to watch. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5, and this one that I'd like to hunt down and add to my collection. Scream Factory actually has a release of this. It's a double feature with another film, but it's one that I'd really, really like to add to the collection. So I'll hunt that one down and add it probably soon. So check that out. It's called Taste of Fear, or Scream of Fear. The Scream Factory release is called Scream of Fear, but if you're looking for it on Letterboxd, it's Taste of Fear. So yeah, and it also helped that the main protagonist of the film, I could have swore she sounds like one of the voice actors for Skyrim. The voice of, if you're familiar with Skyrim, the voice of Isolde, and like the very feminine voice, she sounds like her. So anyway, I was gonna try to get like a clip of it, of the game voice, and a clip of her voice in the movie, and just kind of just compare, but that's too much effort for me right now. I'm too tired. Anyway, Taste of Fear. All right, moving on to Saturday. Saturday, I have two films logged, but the first of the two I started watching on Friday and then just finished it on the Saturday. And it's another film from 1961. I'm starting to hit that list for the next ranking of 1961. So this is a film called Reptilicus, and I watched it on Tubi. It's about this group of people mining in the ground, and they find kind of a piece of what appears to have been a dinosaur at one point in time. And so they give it to a bunch of researchers who discover that the piece was actually a tail, and it's actually regenerating. It's growing a body again. And eventually this thing, very reptilian thing, which they name Reptilicus, breaks out of this research laboratory and then wreaks havoc on the countryside in this coastal little town. And very kind of Godzilla-esque in that way, but it's yeah, I didn't like this film. It's one of those so bad that it's good films that some people would say the effects are awful. It's like a puppet thing, and it's a very stock, sounds. And the thing I like the most about it is probably the inclusion of like war footage and like some weapons, artillery being used, and they're supposed to be using it on the lizard, but yeah. But if you like those so bad it's good films, check this one out, Reptilicus. 1.5 stars out of 5 for me. And then my last film that I watched we watched on Saturday was a classic comedy from the 80s called The Naked Gun, starring Leslie Nielsen in the main role, in which he's playing a cop in a force called the Police Squad. And so his partner is kind of gunned down and he's in a very bad shape at the hospital. So he's finding out what he was working on and tracking down the people involved, that kind of thing. But it's very slapstick, very absurd humor, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. I just enjoyed a lot of the gags early on in the film. I just feel like it kind of slowed down towards the beginning of the third act, and then if they had kept the pace on the gags up until the end of the film, then I would have given this a higher score. But 4 out of 5 is pretty good. One that I hadn't seen in a long time, so it was very enjoyable watching that again. So The Naked Gun from 1988, I believe. So yeah, check that out. That's from the director that gave us Airplane and some of the scary movie films. So yeah, fun time. The Naked Gun. So that is it for my first video on this new series. So I will see you all again next week with another update on what the hell I've been watching. Like I said, I try to watch at least one film every day, and if I don't, then I try to make up for it later in the week and try to get a couple extra ones in there. So yeah, hope it was informative, and hope you enjoy it. Have a good one.